Chapter 57, Chapter 20. The 15 minutes given to break us up. The manual book given by the Academy vibrated and rang, indicating that a place for the third exam was available. Zeal immediately headed to the room. There were already many prospective students gathering, but they couldn't enter because the door to the room was still closed. What distinguished the room in front of and the previous two rooms is the room in front of them has a large door made of mithril. Welcome, prospective students. The practice exam, which is the final exam, will begin. Look at your number in your manual book. Christoph's voice was heard welcoming the prospective students, but the person himself is nowhere to be found. This exam will test your best skills. You will fight with yourself inside what kind of battle will take place inside. It will all depend on you. Presume you are someone worth focused on being supported, then you will fight from the point of view. Then you are a supporter in there. If you fight with weapons, you can imagine the weapons you are usually using. The weapons will be formed based on what you think. To pass, you only have to win or survive for 15 minutes. The time scale inside the exam room is 10 to 1. When the time outside is 15, people will enter at once. And each turn, with this, the test begins. After Christoph's explained it, the door to the exam room finally opened, but all that was visible inside was completely darkness. From number 1 to 15, you guys please enter. After Christoph spoke, the first 15 people immediately entered the room. They disappeared into the darkness, and the door of the room closed. Zeal, who was waiting, felt someone's gaze again. He also felt it when he rushed out to the second room. He knew who was giving that gaze, but he didn't know the reason because he didn't remember doing anything suspicious. Because of that, he just ignored it like usual. Suddenly, the door of the exam room opened, and the 15 people who entered early came out breathlessly and looking overwhelmed, like they had a tough fight. Their test only took 1.5 minutes outside, but the truth is 15 minutes inside. 15 other people immediately entered the room. That's how they take turns during the exam. When Princess Rihanna had her turn, and she came out not long after entering the exam room, the prospective students were astonished and amazed that she came out with a frowny face and very steady breathing. It's as battle as she had inside was easy. Not long after that, Zeal's turn arrived. He entered the room with 14 other participants. Once inside, the previously dark room turned bright light. A night illuminating by moon and stars currently. Zeal is standing alone in what looks like a colosseum. Tap, tap, tap. From the darkness of a colosseum came footsteps approaching him. Little by little, the figure became more visible. He is a boy of Zeal's age, with a short black hair and black eyes that always looked bored. The person in front of him is similar to Zeal. No, rather he is the other him. You will fight yourself, win or survive until time runs out. Then the test begins. Christoph's voice signaled the Zeal's battle with himself had begun. A pitch black colored sword formed in Zeal's right hand. It was Zeta he had used against Ashil and Asbel, and the weapon used by his clone is Zeta clone, the same sword that he uses. Both of them disappeared at the same time from where they were, and reaped in the middle of the Colosseum. They simultaneously slashed the sword in their hands, and the slash that occurred from their slash caused a shockwave to reach the corner of the Colosseum. Zeal and his clone punched with their three hands at the same time. The moment their first mat cracked formed under their feet. After that, they retreated and returned to where they came from. When they kept their distance from each other, Zeal then charged forward to attack the clone. He did a kick towards the clone's head, but his clone also does the same thing as Zeal's. Their kick slashed in the air, but their fight didn't stop there. They continued to slash their sword at an incredible speed. Slice after slice formed from Zeal and his clone's cloth due to the air blades of their swords slashed. What Zeal was doing wasn't trying to win, but guiding his clone to do countermeasures, whether it's defending or attacking, as Zeal wants that's why to be a counterattacks or defensive moves is something that Zeal has predicted without having to hurt each other. For the slash marks on his clothes, it was because he had miscalculated the amount of power he had used. His goal was to make the fight last until the last test time was up. In a certain room inside the Red Tower, Kristoff and Kalia were standing, looking at the screen in front of them. The image on the screen was a black-haired boy holding a pitch-black sword that even absorbed light while slashing his sword with his clone. What is the meaning of this? Shouldn't a clone of participant naturally attack to harm the opponent? Why do they look like they are practicing swordsmanship? This is very strange. Kristoff was confused to see what was happening on the screen. The clone is not the problem. The problem is the participant. Kalia was always silent while supervising the exam, is currently speaking normally. Her eyes kept looking at Zeal's fight on the screen. What do you mean? Kristoff doesn't understand what Kalia is saying. He then saw her asking for an explanation, but Kalia's eyes remained glued to the battle on the screen. He guides his clone to counterattack according to his will. So the move his clone made was as he predicted. He didn't predict, but rather he arranged what kind of attacks the clone had to do to withstand the attacks he did. In other words, the clone just follows his beat. Kalia answered Kristoff without taking her eyes off the screen. What? How is that possible? Wasn't this system created by a sage with the knowledge of a demigod? How could he manage such a thing? Kristoff was shocked and cautiously shouted at Kalia. I don't know, Kalia answered briefly. Kalia recalled what happened during the second exam. At that time, it was Zeal's turn to measure his strength. At first, Kalia just ignored him, but she was reminded by a voice from inside her mind. Dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Kalia was shocked to suddenly hear a voice from her mind. It's not that she doesn't know who's talking, but since that creature never spoke frankly like that. What's wrong, Sylvie? Why are you suddenly panic like that? She asked her creature that is calling Sylvie. The creature who spoke in Kalia's mind was named Sylvie. She was a wind spirit, the contract spirit of Kalia. One of the special things about elves is that besides they're born with a large mana and are suitable to be mages, They also have powers apart from mana and aura. That is spiritism, and when they reach a certain stage of spiritism, the elves could contract a spirit that suited them, and the spirit will live in their bodies. The spirit that Kalia contracted was the spirit of the wind, because the magic she can use is mostly wind elements. He is very dangerous, Kalia. That boy shouldn't exist in this world. Hearing what Sylvie said, Kalia's body trembled. She never even spoke like that, even there met a safe, or a sage in other words. The boy in front of her hand, power above that. What? What are you sure, Sylvie? Kali asked healthily. She is still shaking by what Sylvie had said. Originally flat expression now turned gloomy. I'm pretty sure, but I don't feel any malice from him. So you don't have to show any hostility. Stay calm. Don't let him know you're aware of his existence. Otherwise, this academy will be in danger. Sylvie reminds Kalia, the spirit within the body, of the person who contracted. It will not be detected, even by a true god. Okay. Kalia answered briefly and returned to her flat face. When it was Lilith's turn, Sylvie shouted again. That girl is dangerous too, although not as dangerous as the previous man. You have to be careful with that girl. Sylvie reminded her again. What? There are two such people here. What exactly are their goals? Kalia was worried about what will happen at this academy in the future. Different from the previous man, that girl seemed to have an evil intention here. First, you should always keep an eye on her. Apart from being able to sense the power of a person's existence, Sylvie could also sense that person's intentions. I understand. She answered curly, and her face turned gloomy again. That's why it happened during the second test, but Kalia hasn't told anyone yet. She was currently watching the person fighting on the screen. Suddenly she trembled because the eyes of Zeal who was fighting met her eyes. He is like looking at Kalia. What? Is this just my feeling? Kalia screamed in shock in her mind. No, he saw you. Sylvie answered, made Kalia drip sweat from her forehead. After 15 minutes passed, Zeal's exam was finished. Then Zeal sent out from that room. He immediately looked for a place to rest, while waiting for the exam to finish. After waiting for a few hours, Zeal finally finished the test. Kristoff and Kalia appeared out of thin air in front of the prospective students. The third exam ends here. An announcement whether you pass or not, and what class you will be placed in will be announced tomorrow. You just have to see if your name is listed to the information board. It will be posted later. So good luck. After saying that, Kristoff and Kalia disappeared from the place. Zeal realized that before they disappeared, Kalia had stared at him. Zeal immediately left the place after the third test was declared over and headed to the Silver Tower to pick up Clara. It didn't take long for Zeal to get to the Silver Tower. There he saw Clara standing in front of the tower, but she was not alone. She was currently chatting with a beautiful girl at her age, who had shiny black hair. That girl is a princess heiress.